So, hi, we're going to look at the 7.5 rigging, but this applies to all of the sails. And I really want to stress some of the things about how to make it easy to do this and do less damage to the sail. So when we put the mast in, we want to put it in so we're just going over the cam. So the mast is not going through the cam. And that goes all the way up to at least the second cam. Now being a 7.5, you can have the loop on the bottom or the top, which means you have to have the rotation of the mast set. So we need it opposite of the little downhaul tie there. So when we've got two loops, it's much easier to do because this one's on the bottom and we just line them up so we know they're right. So as you can see, the mast is going up very easily. And what I want to do from here is not just push it up. You never ever pull on this. Don't pull on the sock. Do it this way. Get in the middle and you concertina the sail up like this, so there's no stress on anything. We're not pushing the mast against that. We're not pulling down there. Then you can come down here and stretch it out. So now we've got just the one cam in at the top, and these cams are off. So the next bit, you can make your life really easy of getting these cams on. Unzip it, get the mast sitting on your thigh, put your hand here. So you're pushing the batton away, and keep your elbow so that the mast is not falling off your knee or your thigh. And then cam goes on super easily. Again, thigh, elbow, hand, easy goes on. This one we've just got to make sure that the sail is past the loops. Also check our alignment again before we get too much tension on the mast, and the cam really needs to be below that, below the boom tie. And that. And I'm going to demonstrate this again. I've got on my leg here, I've got my elbow in there, hand there, and it goes on easily. Then we can pull it down. Simple as that. Really easy, no stress on the sail, and we have a happy sail. So I'm going to do the de-rigging now because it's we won't be de-rigging it again because Manu wants his sail rigged, doesn't he? So the way I do it is to just put my hand in, pull the cam up. Some people push them down. I just find it easier to do that. It does mean that the cam can fly away, but so be it. So you can push it down. I just find it harder. Anyway, so I do that for those 4 cams. Just reach in, pull it up, and get it out. Then the mast comes out easy. Again, just concertina it up, like compress, get it some wrinkles and stuff here. Then the mast will come out super easily. If the mast comes apart, the top part can come out any hole, or at the bottom, doesn't matter. Also, and you're going to need a close-up camera for this. So on these cams, we can put spacers. And so they go on here, and there's 2 types of spacers. And we'll see when the sail is rigged if this sail has the right number. But generally there's slight differences between sails, maybe not, but I can't remember what I usually use on the 7.5, but when we get it up, we'll look at how many spaces you need and how you would put them on, and what order you would put them on this sail. Okay, given that I have no shoulders and arms left, I have a very unique method of getting up where I just do this, and then I'll just balance the sail into the wind and lift it on like that. Now it looks a lot easier when there's no wind, because it's hard when there's not. So we do have some wind, I think, do we? No. So generally, it doesn't really matter what sequence you do things, but I think everyone knows how to do this part. I'm just going to get it done. But I do give myself lots of space by just keeping these slack. It makes it a lot easier. So I've just put a little, you might want to show that little knot. It's very simple. It's just like that. And then for those right-handed people, I'm going to change it for a lefty. Put this on there. Again, I'm going to change that one. You're going to be so confused, Manu, when you come back in. So just get a bit of tension on there and everything becomes a lot easier. So Manu's got quite long loops up there, so we should be able to easily get this boom on, but I'm going to show you a couple of tricks for getting it on when the loop is short. The shorter loop, the better. So I've got these little loops up here, and if you go to one side like that or like that, we should be able to get this loop on. If not, which is not, get the boom off the centerboard, around to the side, sail around, and then the boom's hanging more vertically so we can get it on. Now, talking about the loops, these are the positions I would use. I've just got Manu to change it to where pretty much I would use. I'm using about another 30 centimeters down on the lower one. I found the top one is just too powerful and I can't sail a boat in a lot of breeze. But we're certainly in that area of around the mast join. I would probably have those two loops, as I said, about 20 millimeters. I did say centimeters. So 20 millimeters lower than those two, both of them down, with about a 50, 60 millimeter gap between them. You don't want to go extreme. Of course, other people will come up with different ideas, but that's the way I want to do it. So, go back to here. So if we notice here, this is very loose, which we've got about another 10 millimeters of boom length that we could get by having that tied right against the boom. The tighter you can have that, the smaller you can have the loop, the more range you've got on your adjustment. So the maximum for the boom is 34 should I say. I typically use 32, not quite the longest. We've got people saying that the boom's not long enough. That's not, I believe, the case. So 32 should be plenty long enough if you've got this nice and short, the loop nice and short, and the boom loop position in the right place. So, away we go. So now we've got outfall. So we got Manu to thread his cleat, and so I'm a Australian bowline type of guy, so I just put a knot and then another loopy knot. It's a bit harder to get undone, but one thing about that, it's nice and short, so we get the max. So now we can start seeing what we're going to do with tuning this sail. So the first thing we're going to look at is the in-haul. This helps deepen up the bottom of the sail, and it will depend on how windy it is, but I tend to set it for one, so I'll have just this a fixed loop that I don't change. But you can see if you come around to here and look at this, you can see how this will. So that's too much. So it's too deep here. The cam won't rotate. So I'd be just like about that. Okay, you can go back. So now we can see where our cam spaces are, and we can sort of pinch the front of the sail and see how much space we've got. This one we've got space for one cam spacer, but it will depend on how well the sail rotates, whether you want to put it in. This one got space for one more cam spacer. I think the rest, I think in the top, we'll turn the boat over in a sec. I think in the top we could put another cam spacer on. But my theory with cam spacers is you put as many in as you can and still have the sail rotate. There's other theories on that, but that's my theory. So, as you can see, we've got plenty of out or left. For a very strong wind, we would be looking where we're getting some creases down the sail. We'll go into batten tension in a minute. We'd have some more downhaul. So we can, this sail you can really get it to lay off at the top. So we're going to tip the boat over, if you would help me manoeuvre. So we're going to look at cam spacers, and the best way to look at cam spacers with not everything too tight, and just see how easy this, as I said before, we've got a bit of space there, we've got a little bit more space there, a little bit of space there. When we get to the top, it's a bit harder to tell, and it's actually quite critical. This one, you can see that there's not a lot of pressure. So even though there is no creasing in the luff sock, it's not getting the pressure that would really hold shape in the top of the sail. So this one definitely can have another cam spacer, and this one's probably getting okay. You can feel it, that it's got pressure, it's clicking, whereas that one is not really clicking. Down here we've got a fair bit of pressure, so you're really looking at how much looseness you've got in the sock. Personally, I would be putting one thick one, a thin and a thick, probably a thick, this one okay, and experiment with that one, but I'd imagine it would be a couple of thins. But that's going to change a little bit because we're going to change the batten tensions. So the cams are not directly connected to the battens, but batten tension will make a difference. So this bottom one, you can see a lot of creases down here, so it's way too loose. So we crank that up until we get rid of all of those creases. That one you rarely change. This one, you can see some creases there. You may not see it with the camera, but right at the front there's a few creases. We'll just tweak them out a bit. That was just half a turn. This one again, there's a few creases at the front. Get rid of those. It was a quarter of a turn. Now we get to the battens that you use actually for tuning the sail. So we sometimes want creases here to depower the sail. So I'm going to tune it up for what I would use for light wind, which would be getting just rid of all the creases, no more. And we're only looking at the creases beside the batten. We don't care about the creases in the rest of the sail. It's just beside the batten. So this one, I'll just be a little bit careful. I'm leaving a few little bumps here. This one, I've got a pretty powered up sail there. Look at these. So this one's still loose. That one's now got a really nice click. This one we're not looking at the clicks because they'll click regardless, there's always pressure there. And we definitely need another cam spacer there, another one there. So I've now changed my opinion of what I'd be going, a thick and a thin. We'll start from the bottom. That one's probably just a thin spacer, that's the curvy one. That one could be two thins, or it could be a thick and a thin. Put the thick one on first and the thin one on later, so you get a nice round surface for the cam to rotate on. Probably 2 thins. That one's okay. And I have a feeling this one's 2 thins. But the main thing is that you can rotate the sail when you're sailing. The cams will rotate. If it doesn't do that, then you've got too many. So now we want to look at it when we've got some tension in the sail. A bit hard to pull from this direction. Now you can have a look here and you can see it's quite deep here where there's no cam, but it's not deep here. So we could push a bit of depth in it by those cam spaces. It's a super critical area because of the place where it's very hard to keep flow over the sail. So if you don't have that knuckly effect from the cam in the sail, you will lose flow at that batton. So that seriously needs another cam. These ones you could probably do without, but it will power up the sail a little bit, particularly down low, which is where you want it. So let's get a bit more outer on. Now we're starting to see a very, wrong one. So the sail's inverting. I mean, that would be pretty extreme upwind conditions. I don't know whether I'd ever sail like that, but it's very hard to tell until you get wind in the sail what it's going to look like. But so there's certainly a big range that you can have with the shape of the sail. So the other thing, well, let's have a look at what I would do for survival conditions. So you can see there is some inherent shape in this batton. In survival conditions, you want to have no inherent shape. It's just floppy. And the same with this one. We've got a little bit of shape that's being pushed in by the batton tension, and you just want to get rid of that if you're really struggling. And same with the third one. So now that part of the sail is really just working like it should. This part of the sail, you can get rid of a bit of power, but I tend not to, but personal choice down there. But this is super critical, the top. So we've got to go to a lighter downwind setting maybe. Well, we'll go to a light upwind setting. So probably the flattest I'd have it if I knew I was going to stay in wind. And again, everything looks very different with the wind in the sail. So we'll put the batton tension back for our lighter wind setting. We'll start from this one. So it's about 3/4 a turn on that. Bit over a turn on that one. And a turn and a half on that. To me, that would be a sort of light wind, upwind setting. And then for downwind, in the light, I might be letting a bit off the downhaul. And this really depends on how gusty the wind is. Do you need to get through those lulls, or can you just power it the whole time? So, you know, if it's, and then the next thing, if you're really struggling to get up, like I usually am, I'd be really letting off the outhaul to just try and get it up. But that has to come in immediately you're up, pretty much. That, to me, is too full for any sailing in a straight line. Unless you're just trying to sail on foils, and it's almost getting to the point where you're going to be having such bad VMG, you might as well be low riding. So I'm going to attempt to change the cam spaces without de-rigging. So I'm going to take the cunno off so I can really get the sail so maybe I'll be able to pull this out. There we go. So what did I say for this one?
Big one and a small one.
A big one and a small one. So I'm going to put the big one on first and then the thin one on top, which does give us quite a lot, but no, I'll go to 2 small ones here. I reckon it's more likely. But if we can have the round facing the cam, it does seem to be better. I'll do this one. And we're going to go a big one here. I think so. No, it's too much. We'll try a big one and a small one. Yes, that's right. No, it's all right. We'll get this. And this one was 2 small ones. 1 small one. Okay. I'm going to go 2. Going to go 2. We'll get a demonstration of too tight. This one's fine. And this was a big and a small, wasn't it? 2 smalls. So can everyone remember what they are? Which way does this go? I think this way is better, but don't know. Okay. I'm going to rotate the sail. That will fall off. And start with this bottom one. Push it on. Okay. Need to undo. Come on. Probably would have been helpful to undo that, but I think we'll get it on anyway. So the lesson is that not too hard to get the bottom one in, maybe the top ones. We might have too many on that one, we'll see. One small one, because I can't get it on, I don't think. Okay. Oh yeah, it would have been easy to get those cams in if I'd loosened the battens as well. stray cam spacer. So we've gone too hard on this one. It really doesn't want to rotate. This one's not, this one feels all right, maybe. That one's still the same. The one in there, you can feel that click now. So let's put it upright and see how we go. Now we've definitely got one too many in there, but I'm not going to do that right now. Don't worry about creases coming this way here. That can be fast. So if you look up that sail, you can see it's really opening at the top. So you can sail that sail in very, very windy conditions without getting too much backhand pressure and very low drag. And if I was sailing upwind like that, I would be probably just easing slightly on there. And if I could get it out, I'd just lose a little bit of cano and try and send it downwind. Again, that depends on how gusty it is. If it's more gusty, I'd have it a bit fuller. And then moving to the light wind, upwind setting. Probably no fuller than that. Unless it was really marginal, then maybe that full, but I don't think ever sailing with ridiculously low amounts of cano works, because you tend to have the top not working properly. So you can see we get all these creases here. I don't know whether you're seeing on that side, yeah. It's just too much drag and the top's not working properly. So I always have some tension. I'm getting rid of those creases. We're just going to talk about the bridle length. Most people have it this sort of length. Personally, I have it a lot shorter, so that I'm pulling the leech tight when I sheet in, so I can really power up the top of the sail. It does require a stronger arm though. So this is a pretty nice position for most people, but if you really want to be able to change the tension in your leech with main sheet tension, you can have it quite a bit lower, and yeah, the sail won't be centered as much, but you can really get the top. So you can have more cano, more downhaul, twist the sail and then pull it back by pulling the sheet in. Very personal, that one, I think. And that's about it.